Okay, so this section here is actually about a code of ethics. Because we're in New York State, it's the OASIS, which is the Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse Services, CASAC, which is the Credential Alcohol and Substance Abuse Council, Credential Canon of Ethical Principles. So this is the code. Here you are. Hi. Okay, here you are, and this is your standard, your framework of a canon of professional principles, okay? And here is a copy of that. Everybody gets their own copy. So it's in the printout. Now look, so have you seen this before? Did I ask you, have you got the CASAC application? Remember we talked about that, the application? If you get the application, it'll break down section 1, 2, 3, 4, what you need. But it's a 35-page application. And this just doesn't apply to New York State. Any state that has a credentialing body, you're going to need the application. And there's going to be a canon of professional ethics that you're going to need to sign off on and agree to. Now, this is where you can't use those virtue ethics and don't just sign that and say, oh, I'll do that, I'll do the right thing, because you're not always going to know what the right thing is to do. Because you've taken this course and this training, you're going to know that you have guidelines to make an ethical decision and come up with the right thing to do. But just in case, there is a canon of professional ethics that you need to adhere to. And that's going to be your framework. And every state has one. So just look through that. Now, for time purposes, we're not going to go through all of these. And Dan's already said that I need too much. But
do you have to have a CASAC-T before you take your full CASAC? You just go straight to a CASAC?
If you have all the paperwork of your application and everything's, all the everything, all the components that are needed to qualify to get a CASAC.
Oh, and you need 3 professional references.
Well, if you've got that, if you've got all of that, and you have all the educational components and the supervisory components and
so that's
courses, references filled out on their paperwork, and you're going to go sit for the exam and pass it, they'll give you a CASAC. But usually you're going to submit that and get the CASAC-T because of what we were saying last week, because you're considered a qualified health professional and you can work inside an OASIS licensed place, and they can bill for the services that you provide. You can run a group, 10 people, under supervision, and that's units of service, and you're providing a service now. There was just a couple that I did want to point out. Number 17, which is what we just talked about. Why don't you read that one out loud for us, Fran?
17, I only have
Number 17.
up to 14.
Well, you only have to sign off on 14 principles. Is there a page 2 there?
No.
Yes, there is. You just turn the page.
Yeah, this is what I have.
Oh, okay. Well, let's give that to Tara, because that's the page of that thing I was just telling you about, the ICNRC. When you go to the website, this is the candidate's guide, the international candidate's guide, but then it's all the other pages of the information, and it probably has the website down here. That's page 1 of the guide. Here.
You want me to read 17?
Yeah, go ahead, you read 17. Bill, jump right in there for Fran.
Must recognize the need for ongoing education to maintain current competence and to improve expertise and skills.
Okay, so that's what we're doing here. And that's what I do as far as the training courses that I have under the Institute for Learning and Development.
How many hours do you need a year to maintain?
60 hours. You need 60 hours a year
Uh-huh.
of continuing education.
A year?
I mean, sorry, every 3 years to get recertified. But that's the courses that I have. I have about 45 hours right now. Now, it doesn't have to be 60 hours of classroom training. I think, don't quote me on this, I think it needs to be 28 hours of actual classroom training certificates of completion that I do. The rest can be filled in, although not always, but there's minimum requirements. But you can get credit for volunteer community education services that you do. Like I said, I do another, there's another not-for-profit program that I do community education out, you know, I do volunteer work, I do some volunteer work at, there's a group of sober houses, I do a relapse prevention workshop for them, and the owner of the sober house signs that I did a 3-hour, I do it on Thursday nights for 2 hours, a relapse prevention program, because some of those, they don't have any insurance, those guys, they have no treatment, they're just going to meetings and they're in a sober house, or some of them are in treatment, or they work. So they have, some of them don't have any treatment, so I do a relapse prevention workshop to teach them coping mechanisms, and it's called the No Matter What Relapse Prevention Workshop that I have copyrighted now. And I go and I give the presentation in PowerPoint, and I have a video, and I you know, for free. And he signs off. That counts towards what's called professional development, that I'm doing volunteer work. So you can do volunteer work, get someone to sign off, and you can apply that towards your hours. Also, if you do anything published, where I do publications, where I'm published twice, that I've used, I can't use them this time around, but I used them last time around. And when I actually do a training, I can get claim credit hours for that. 27 or 26 hours, I think. But you actually need 26 hours, has to be classroom. So it's broken down: classroom, community development, volunteer work, publication. So you can do other things. You don't have to take 60 hours. But I advise people to do some volunteer work. Everybody should be doing volunteer work anyway, as part of the community education. We should all be doing volunteer work. But you need to have ongoing education. That's why I get a little annoyed sometimes with licensed social workers now are going to have 36 hours every 3 years. But I used to see, when I would go to places and I'd try to do a training, and the program, I've read this from program directors who were licensed social workers. And not to be discriminating, I'm not saying anything bad about them, I have some great social workers. But also, I'm telling you, there was a PhD also who said to me, well, Mr. Rule, we don't need training, you know, we're licensed. We don't need training. Or this PhD, you know, and I was talking about some other training, motivation interviewing, blended initiative, DSM-5, didn't know anything about it. And I said, well, you're going to, you know, other programs are using this treatment protocol and it's very successful. I'm quoting PhD program director, quote. I'm not interested in what other programs are doing. I'm only interested in what this program is doing. And we don't need any training. We've been doing this a very long time.
Where's that?
I'm not going to say the name of it because we have the camera on. I'm quoting the doctor. He's a doctor, PhD, right? I'm not interested in what other programs are doing. I'm only interested in what this program is doing. And you know, we don't need any training. We've been doing this a very long time, and we know what we're doing. End quote. And I asked them about the DSM-5, or this, or motivational interviewing assessment, or the Science of Service Blending Initiative, or changes, you know, but in one ear, out the other. But he's been doing it a very long. People who are doing things the same way and don't think that they need ongoing training in this field are going to be casualties when it comes to the DSM-5, Mental Health Parity, Addiction, Equity Act, Affordable Care Act. People have coverage for substance use disorder, and you know, we want integrative treatment, longer term, lifelong wellness. We're looking for people who don't get on board. They're just going to do it this way, that way. There will be casualties in this field over the next 5 years, and you'll see programs close. But anyway, when it comes to the ethical principles, 17, according to what the OASIS says, 17, we must recognize the need for ongoing education to maintain current competence and improve expertise and skills. I'm constantly reading and studying the research so I can do this training with up to the minute information. Up to the minute. Okay, there's one more I wanted to just point out here. There's something about documentation. Don't discriminate. Five and six, that was the one I was looking at. They got 5 and 6 on your sheet yet?
Yes.
What about the person in the back? They haven't said much. Well, number 5, read that? Read it out loud. I want to hear it so it can pick it up on the camera. 5?
Want me to read it?
Yes, loud, so we want to pick that up.
Must not engage in relationships with patients, former patients, or their significant others in which there is a risk of exploitation or potential harm to the patient.
Okay, so remember what we talked about in the other session about the exchange of power in the client-counselor relationship, and that there is an opportunity there to exploit that power, and how could that be exploited? And I think Tara said you could be judgmental, or you can not give them good treatment. And I was looking for so that and then I think you said that you can sexually or get into a relationship, or you can abuse that power by sexually exploiting a patient, and that works both ways between men and women. It works both ways, whether you're a male counselor, female counselor, doesn't matter. There's no sexual discrimination here. That applies to everybody. It goes to board. If you want to ruin your career, act out sexually in the confines of the client-counselor relationship. And if I find out, or somebody finds out, they're going to be reported to the governing body, and Oasis will yank your certification based on this.
I have a question. People do fall in love. People do fall in love. What happens if the therapist and patient for some reason fall in love and they actually get married? I mean, are they not allowed to do that?
No, they're not. Okay, now I'll give you an example. And you might find this as a shock. This is going to be so shocking to you, I'm going to have to turn off the camera. Are you ready? I have had female patients fall in love with me.
And what do they do?
What do I do is the question, not what do they do. What do I do? How do I handle that?
Well, how'd they fall and they told you they were in love with you?
Because there's an exchange of power there.
Did they say they fell in love with you?
Listen,
I'm asking a question.
I'll explain it to you, okay? There's an exchange of power.
Right.
And so, a young female who's attracted, here's this fantastic guy, who's so powerful and smart and knowledgeable
How can you not fall in
and
love?
good looking,
Supportive.
and supportive, right? Who understands me.
Right.
This works both ways now. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah, it both works both
I've
ways.
never
You
been
fall-
understood so much before, or it could be with a man with a female therapist.
You said it works both
Here's
ways.
a woman. Yes, I'm giving you an example of
That
I'm
you
the
fall in love
patient.
with them?
No, I'm the male patient with a female therapist. Here's a woman who finally understands me, and she's so sexy too.
Right.
And the transference, countertransference, and you fall in love with them. Patients can. So if your question is, is it possible for a patient to fall in love with their therapist? The answer is a resounding
Yes.
yes. It happens all the time.
So
How does the patient handle it? How do you handle that as a therapist?
So what they say to you? They told you
I'm
they were
going
love
to tell
with
you right now.
I'm waiting.
That is a big, big no-no.
Really?
Oh yes. Oh yes. You cannot exploit that. You would be exploiting that. You would be using your power firstly, do no harm. You would be using your power to exploit the vulnerability of your patient.
What
And
if
that
you
is
got a
big
vulnerable?
no-no.
What happens if they made like inappropriate comments, or like comments that could be taken as like you're not like broad comments? Like what happens if
From the patient?
yeah, like they didn't outright say I'm falling in love with you or I'm in love with you.
Mm-hmm.
They more or less was like for example, if you said one of your patients, it's like, oh, you're very handsome.
Mm-hmm.
I've made comments like that.
Okay.
or like, oh, I didn't expect you to be so handsome, or something like that.
Okay, so you've
Like it
obviously-
wasn't like, oh, you know, I'm in love with you, I have strong feelings for you. It was more like, you know, subtle comments like that.
Okay, so what you're saying is, correct me if I'm wrong, a patient has said that to you, that you were very attractive. I didn't think you were going to be so attractive. Okay, so right, so I mean, I got a lot of I'm trained at this. That's what you're saying, right? A patient has said that to you, right? And how did that make you feel?
I don't know.
How'd you reply?
Hold on, miss.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm the.
I don't know how it made me
Look, how did
feel.
that make a patient said?
It brought up questions. in
It
my
brought
head.
up questions.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So a patient has said that to you, a male.
A male.
A male, of course. A
Adult
male
male.
said that to you, and how did you feel how did that make you feel?
It just brought up questions. Curiosity.
Curiosity or questions? Okay, so what were
Yeah.
the questions?
To myself.
Yeah, but what was the question? You weren't questioning
Is he
yourself.
sexually attracted? You know, how...
Is he sexually attracted? You were asked yourself, is he sexually attracted?
Well,
to
when
me?
he made a comment about my looks, and then I said to myself, does he mean sexually? Like,
Right.
like how is this affecting treatment?
Okay.
You know, so then I had asked him. I said, would you feel more comfortable with a male therapist? Because he said, because he likes to talk about like his romantic relationships. So sometimes he hesitates, and I pick out the hesitation. He said, well, I didn't expect having an attractive female therapist, so sometimes it's a little uncomfortable to talk about these things. I said, okay. I said, so you could talk like what, your level of what you feel comfortable with. Okay. Then he'll say it again. So he said, well, is it so uncomfortable that you'd rather work with a male therapist?
That's what you asked him?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No. But I feel like, and then he'll talk very openly about these things. But I don't know if he just wants to give me a compliment, or if he's saying something like I should be mindful of. Like, I don't know what that exchange was. So sometimes I kind of, I don't know, this is also the client who always asks me, how old am I? Just a lot of with the necklace that I told you, oh, what religion are you? And he always.
We addressed that in the self-disclosure too.
Yeah.
I think we covered that.
Yeah.
That's another area, but no, you can't answer those.
Right.
But we're onto something here with that. Your feelings and how you questioned, and bringing it up here now. So I mean.
And I spoke to my supervisor, and she asked if I felt uncomfortable working with him. I said, no, I never feel uncomfortable working with him. Because he's a security guard. He's a very big man. He's very tall inside.
Yes.
He's big,
Yes.
just muscular, very a big man, very intimidating. But he doesn't intimidate me in any way. I don't feel unsafe. I don't feel like, our sessions are we're on a date. I don't feel he's ever inappropriate. The comments though, sometimes I'm just because then he had made other comments too, well, I like these sessions, because now he's decreasing his sessions. So he's well, I like these sessions because it's a lot of insight that I gain, and something about well, it's the first female that I ever could have a intellectual conversation with.
Right.
And he's made comments like that,
Right.
identifying me.
Yeah, but that's a change because what he's done there is he's not sexualizing you.
Yeah.
So he's not sexualizing you there. So you've actually, which is what I would have done with you with supervision. Okay, this is great. This is great stuff. This is really good stuff because this is what real life happens in the confines. And I'm glad I got my camera rolling. And I'm not going to put you on the camera, but I'm just going to say for the camera, okay? She's very attractive, young and attractive. So you're going to elicit that response from a patient. Okay, so one, as clinical supervisor, I would not make a change there. Okay, but you did the right thing by asking him, would he feel more comfortable with a male counselor? Right, and he declined. Okay, because he wants to work. He wants to work with you. Okay?
Yeah.
He might have just been clearing the air about a few things.
That's what I thought maybe too, that's
He
maybe
just-
not to press him for some question
right,
because he
right.
feels that uncomfortable.
A lot of times it's best not to shine a light on that. If that does happen, don't almost what we call in psychology. put it on extinction, almost ignore it, so that will go away. But because there is something going on with him on that issue, and you're probably the best person for him you're the best therapist for him to work that through, rather than a male, because he would sexualize women then. But because you are an attractive